Hello and welcome to the Politics Show, coming from Port Stewart on the north coast. We're less than 2 weeks away from polling day, and we're focusing today on the battle for unionist votes. With me are Keith Harbinson of the TUV, Mike Nesbitt of the Ulster Conservatives and Unionists, and Jeffrey Donaldson of the DUP. Also joining me is a panel of voters from the area who'll be putting their questions directly to our politicians. Does the TUV support the idea of cutting the public sector, of rebalancing the economy?
There undoubtedly has to be a rebalancing act. We have a very much a bloated bureaucracy within Northern Ireland. You look at education, for instance, 40% of education spend goes in bureaucracy. That is not sustainable. We must face cuts, but it must be done and managed correctly. We cannot face massive cuts and an immediate rebalance within 1 year, even within one parliament. We have to seek assistance from Westminster to aid us in that rebalance, which means building our economy to sustain the transfer across from the public to the private sector.
Okay. Now let's return to our panel of voters and a question from Nigel Handforth, who's Vice Principal at Limavady Grammar. Nigel.
My question is about education. Education at the moment would appear to be deadlocked in Northern Ireland. What influence can your party use to try and move us and progress the education system towards a shared future?
Thanks very much, Nigel. Well, we know this, is, of course, is a devolved matter, and this is a Westminster election. But Keith Harbinson, what does the TUV think?
Well, the first thing to consider is the budget which education is delivered in this country, and that originates at Westminster. So the first thing is to secure adequate funding for the schools, whether they be secondary, grammar or whatever. But yes, there are lots of issues within education at the moment, starting with the post-primary selection process, which needs immediate address. You know, we have a selection process now which sits expelled from the mainstream system. Unregulated mayhem is created on the back of that. We need a system devised that will allow all stakeholders an input and allow parents and pupils, the key people within this argument, to have their say. Because we did have one of the most revered education systems through all of Europe, and now we're left with uncertainty which provides benefit to no one. But yes, we do have to look at what system to provide and then how we can provide that through adequate funding.
Let's move back to the panel. A question from Yvonne Hamilton. Yvonne's a community worker here. Yvonne, your question.
In and around Port Stewart we have a blight of empty houses which attract vandalism, and yet it's very often impossible for our local young people to get a home. In England, these matters are dealt with through dedicated empty house officers who try to bring these properties back into proper use. If you are elected, what are you going to do to ensure that these houses are brought back into proper use in Port Stewart and in this area?
Harbinson, the fact is an MP is elected for an area so they can speak to locals about local issues. First of all, on the empty homes blight and the lack of input from local government on that, what should be done?
Well, the problem is in the northwest, it's really treated as a world outside of the rest of Northern Ireland, and that's indicative of people coming and spending weekends here because they can escape. But that's not to say that people up here should be treated any differently from the rest of Northern Ireland, and that's something that needs focus on it. Yes, tourism and things are great for the area and essential for the area, given its natural beauty and the local content, such as the Northwest, the Milk Cup, big events that attract inward investment. But for the people living here day in daily, these are genuine concerns. Now, there is a population within the Northwest attending university. We have the Students' Union President with us, and a lot of people come seeking homes on that basis. But there has to be, and the need for social housing in this area is no different from the need for social housing in my own constituency. They must be addressed. Proper census needs to be taken of each individual area, and proper provision made and sustained. How we do that.
But are you not trying to have your cake and eat it too? Because you said earlier that the TUV does support cutting back on the size of the public sector. Isn't there a case for simply saying perhaps it's time for the market to sort these things out?
No, what we say in relation to cut back on the public sector, we are talking about the proliferation that has happened under Labour of unproductive jobs, which are the immediate area that needs redress, which can make immediate savings, which then can be ploughed into frontline projects such as the provision of social housing, health, education, whatever. These are important issues. We cannot do without education, we can't do without health, we can't do without social housing. These are basic needs of people in the whole of Northern Ireland. So therefore, whenever we talk about public sector cuts, we talk about the unnecessary bureaucracy within public sector, which would then facilitate increased investment into these programmes.
Keith Harbinson, I've already mentioned another one, Jim Allister. Of course, is your party all about just trying to wreck things? I mean, you're not really that interested in Westminster. What you're interested in doing is wrecking what's happening at the Assembly, sure?
Absolutely not, Jim. We are standing in Westminster election concerned with Westminster issues. It's true our party will not disappear after the Westminster election, and we are building for the future, but we're not seeking to wreck anything. We're a very forward-thinking party, and unlike the other unionist parties, there's no poverty of aspiration with us. We look at the current system, we acknowledge the flaws, as the other unionist parties do, but we're the one that seeks to correct that. We're the one that seeks something better. We will not settle for second best for our constituents. We want to drive the agenda forward, receive the best form of government for Northern Ireland. That's a very positive thing.
But you say you're for unionist unity, but in fact you're for unionist division, surely?
Absolutely not. We stand in the safest unionist seats. We are the only unionist party to walk away from the marginal seats of North Belfast, Upper Bann, South Belfast, Fermanagh South Tyrone, because we acknowledged, and people have accused us, you couldn't have won those seats. Jim, we don't have to win those seats. All we have to do is poll as we can poll in those areas, as Europe indicated to us, and those seats will be lost to nationalism. We espouse unionist principles. We want to see unions return to Westminster.